Hello and welcome to the final first look exploring session looking at the Malcontent, mostly by John Marston with some occasional additions, probably by Webster. I don't know whether we have any additions in this section or particularly noteworthy additions. Some of the additions are quite small and inconsequential. Some of them are quite noticeable, like when we go, why is this scene here? It doesn't seem to add anything to the plot, which is always engaging. So as we continue, we're looking at midway through Act 4 to the end of the play, and looking forward to finding out how it all is going to end. And reading the play with us today, reading Malevole is...
Briony, Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire, eating a muffin.
Reading Mendoza today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
Reading, I'll work my way through the Dukes in order. No, not in order. This is the middle one. Reading Pietro, Prepasso, and Epilogue is...
Hello, Francis Cox, actor, coming to you from sweltering Amsterdam.
Reading Maria and Bianca today is...
Lalitte, teacher from Paris.
Reading Bilioso today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm also a teacher. I'm in the Northwestern United States where it's not sweltering yet, but it will be later this afternoon.
Reading Captain and Celso is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm very sad not to be a Duke.
Yes, when there are so many Dukes to go round. Reading Maquerelle today is...
Hello, I'm Lois, retired academic in London.
Reading Ferneze and Emilia today is...
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
Reading Aurelia today is...
Hello, I'm Sarah Blake, not eating a muffin, but kind of wishing I was.
And reading Passarello and Mercury today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and jumping in if I've missed anything out, but in terms of parts. But for the most part, this is a play that is actually surprisingly straightforward in terms of parts and the numbers they're in. So without further ado, we're diving into what we're calling Act 4, Scene 2. The scene numbering does vary depending on editions, depending on how you want to break the action up. It is sometimes in Act 4, Scene 4. Whichever way you want to label it. Enter Malevole, Pietro, still disguised. They're both disguised. They're both ex-dukes, and they're both disguised at several doors.
How do you? How dost, Duke?
Oh, let the last day fall. Drop on our cursed heads. Let heaven unclasp itself, vomit forth flames.
Oh, do not rave, do not turn player. There's more of them than can well live one by another already. What, art an infidel still?
I am amazed, struck in a swoon with wonder. I am commanded to poison thee.
I am commanded to poison thee at supper.
At supper?
In the citadel.
In the citadel?
Cross capers, tricks, truth of heaven. He would discharge us as boys do Eldern guns, one pellet to strike out another. Of what faith art now?
All is damnation, wickedness extreme. There is no faith in man.
In none but usurers and brokers. They deceive no man. Men take 'em for bloodsuckers, and so they are. Now, God deliver me from my friends.
Thy friends?
Yes, from my friends. For from mine enemies I'll deliver myself. Oh, cutthroat friendship is the rankest villainy. Mark this, Mendoza. Mark him for a villain, but heaven will send a plague upon him for a rogue.
Oh, world.
World? 'Tis the only region of death, the greatest shop of the devil, the crudest prison of men, out of the which none pass without paying their dearest breath for a fee. There's nothing perfect in it, but extreme calamity, such as comes yonder.
Enter Aurelia, 2 halberds before and 2 after, supported by Celso and Ferrado. Aurelia in base mourning attire.
To banishment. Lead on to banishment.
Lady, the blessedness of repentance to you.
Why? Why, I can desire nothing but death, nor deserve anything but hell. If heaven should give sufficiency of grace to clear my soul, it would make heaven graceless. My sin would make the stock of mercy poor. Oh, they would tire heaven's goodness to reclaim them. Judgment is just, yet from that vast villain, but sure. He shall not miss that punishment, for he shall rule. On to my cell of shame.
My cell 'tis, lady, where instead of masks, music, tilts, tourneys, and such court-like shows, the hollow murmur of the checkless winds shall groan again, whilst the unquiet sea shakes the whole rock with foamy battery. There usherless the air comes in and out. The roomy vault will force your eyes to weep, whilst you behold true desolation. A rocky barrenness shall pain your eyes, where all at once one reaches where he stands, with brows the roof, both walls with both his hands.
It is too good. Blessed spirit of my Lord, oh, in what orb soe'er thy soul is throned, behold me worthily most miserable. Oh, let the anguish of my contrite spirit entreat some reconciliation. If not, oh joy, triumph in my just grief. Death is the end of woes, and tears relief.
Belike your Lord not loved you, was unkind.
Oh heaven! As the soul loves the body, so loved he. 'Twas death to him to part my presence, heaven to see me pleased. Yet I, like to a wretch given over to hell, break all the sacred rites of marriage, to clip a base, ungentle, faithless villain. Oh God! A very pagan reprobate. What should I say? Ungrateful, throws me out, for whom I lost soul, body, fame, and honour. But 'tis most fit. Why should a better fate attend on any who forsake chaste sheets? Fly the embrace of a devoted heart, joined by a solemn vow, for God and man to taste the brackish flood of beastly lust in an adulterous touch. Oh, ravenous immodesty, insatiate imprudence of appetite! Oh, look, here's your end. For mark, what sap in dust, what good in sin, even so much love in lust. Joy to thy ghost, sweet Lord. Pardon to me.
'Tis the Duke's pleasure this night you rest in court.
Soul lurk in shades. Run shame from righteous skies. In night the blind man listeth not his eyes.
And exit with Celso, Ferrado, and halberds.
Do not weep, kind cuckold. Take comfort, man. Thy betters have been Becos. Agamemnon, emperor of all the merry Greeks, that tickled all the true Trojans, was a cornuto. Prince Arthur, that cut off 12 kings' beards, was a cornuto. Hercules, whose back bore up heaven and got 40 wenches with child in one night.
Nay, 'twas 50.
Faith, 40's enow. Oh, conscience, yet was a cornuto. Patience, mischief grows proud, be wise.
Thou pinchest too deep, art too keen upon me.
Tut, a pitiful surgeon makes a dangerous sore. I'll tent thee to the ground. Thinkest I'll sustain myself by flattering thee because thou art a prince? I had rather follow a drunkard and live by licking up his vomit than by servile flattery.
Yet great men had done it.
Great slaves fear better than love, born naturally for a coal basket, though the common usher of princes' presence, fortune have blindly given them better place. I am vowed to be thy affliction.
Prithee, be. I love much misery, and be thou son to me.
Because you are an usurping duke.
Enter Bilioso.
Your lordship's well returned from Florence.
Well returned, I praise my horse.
What news from the Florentines?
I will conceal the great duke's pleasure. Only this was his charge. His pleasure is that his daughter die. Duke Pietro be banished for banishing his blood's dishonor, and that Duke Altofront be re-accepted. This is all. I hear Duke Pietro is dead.
Aye, and Mendoza is Duke. What will you do?
Is Mendoza strongest?
Yet he is.
Then yet I'll hold with him.
But if that outer front should turn straight again?
Why then I would turn straight again. 'Tis good still run with him that has most might. I had rather stand with wrong than fall with right.
What religion will you be of now?
Of the Duke's religion, when I know what it is.
Oh, Hercules.
Hercules? Hercules was the son of Jupiter and Alcmene.
Your lordship is a very wit-all.
Wit-all?
Aye, all wit.
Amphitrio was a cuckold.
Your lordship sweats. Your young lady will get you a cloth for your old worship's brows.
And exit Bilioso.
Here's a fellow to be damned. This is his inviolable maxim. Flatter the greatest and oppress the least. A whoreson flesh fly that still gnaws upon the lean galled backs.
Why dost then salute him?
Faith, as bawds go to church, for fashion's sake. Come, be not confounded. Thou art but in danger to lose a dukedom. Think this. This earth is the only grave and Golgotha wherein all things that live must rot. 'Tis but the draught wherein the heavenly bodies discharge their corruption, the very muck-hill on which the sublunary orbs cast their excrements. Man is the slime of this dung-pit, and princes are the governors of these men. For our souls, they are as free as emperors, all of one piece. There goes but a pair of shears betwixt an emperor and the son of a bagpiper. Only the dyeing, dressing, pressing, glossing makes the difference. Now, what art thou like to lose? A jailor's office to keep men in bonds? Whilst toil and treason all life's good confounds.
I here renounce for ever regency. O Altafront, I wrong thee to supplant thy right, to trip thy heels with a devilish sleight, for which I now from throne am thrown, world tricks abjure, for vengeance, though it comes slow, yet it comes sure. Oh, I am changed, for here, for the dread power, in true contrition I do dedicate my breath to solitary holiness, my lips to prayer, and my breast's care shall be, restoring Altafront to regency.
Thy vows are heard, and we accept thy faith.
And ta-da! Undisguiseth himself. Re-enter Ferneze and Celso.
Banish amazement. Come, we four must stand, full shock of fortune. Be not so wonder-stricken.
Doth Ferneze live?
For your pardon.
Pardon and love. Give leave to recollect my thoughts dispersed in wild astonishment. My vows stand fixed in heaven, and from hence I crave all love and pardon.
Who doubts of Providence that sees this change? A hearty faith to all. He needs must rise who can no lower fall. For still impetuous vicissitude touseth the world. Then let no maze intrude upon your spirits. Wonder not I rise, for who can sink that close can temporize? The time grows ripe for action. I'll detect my privatest plot, lest ignorance fear suspect. Let's close to counsel. Leave the rest to fate. Mature discretion is the life of state.
And exit. So, another scene, or series of scenes, doing a huge amount of work as we fly from one little thing to another, but we're constantly in the presence of Malevole here, or Altafront, if we'd like to give him his real name. And yes, he has undisguised himself. It is I, Altafront, at the point when Pietro has sort of redeemed himself. I don't know how far you want to go on that front. And Bilioso has delivered some lovely lines. I really like his just straightforward. I'll stand with whoever's strongest. Don't talk to me of morals. I just want to survive. Interesting moral question there. Discuss. Yes, and of course we've also had this interlude with Aurelia as well, who gets on and manages to make some speechifying occurs. Thoughts from the room about all those elements? Who wants to leap in first? Francis.
Yeah, the whole sort of atmosphere of the play takes a real turn here. We have this extravagant contrition from Aurelia after all her dirty deeds of the first half, and instead goes for Pietro. There's this sudden piety. So the whole this scene has a whole different kind of sense to it.
And of course, he's effectively in disguise as a priest, offering comfort to his own wife, who doesn't know it's him. So there's a whole level of irony going on in this scene, which is great. And this play is just full of ironies like that, which is always super fun. Lynn.
Yes, exactly what Francis has said. That at the turnaround here, I mean, there's still like extremely clever dramaturgy going on, where first Aurelia, the Duchess, confesses to the person she has wronged, not knowing who it is, and then Pietro confesses and is sorry to the person that he has wronged, and he doesn't know who it is. So those scenes are reflections of one another. It's a little annoying that that Aurelia doesn't get to know, she doesn't actually get her reconciliation, because she doesn't at least yet discover that she's expressed contrition to her own husband. But I'm not, so, all of that's like so ironic and clever and in its own way so cool, but I'm not sure I buy it. That these bad characters have all of a sudden decided they're really sorry and they want to lead a better life. We'll see.
Well, but is this a play about buying it or not, or is it all about surfaces? And also the question of tone and satire, and the comic games they're playing. It's a really interesting question, of which we don't have to come up with answers yet. Actually, I mean that's, but it's a really great point.
Yeah,
and of course,
the irony is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, and the moment that irony is unfolded, he undisguises himself, and so, but then immediately afterwards sees a dead man walking. I mean, it's like this Pietro just has a just slap in his face, one after the other. I'll go to Sarah, then Briony, then Eric.
Yeah, when I was reading Aurelia, I was a little bit surprised by this sudden turn of events. Because, it's like she's suddenly this deep penitent, whereas she wasn't before. And it occurred to me halfway through when I was reading it, I was like, has she actually seen through his hermit disguise? That there is part of me that would really like it if she'd actually if she's fully aware that this is her husband, and she's like, oh, he loved me so much and I was so terrible to him, and oh, he was the best of husbands, and oh, but now, it's too late and I'm going off to my cell and I deserve everything I get. I mean, I don't know. Probably it's meant to be genuine, but it just occurs to me that could perhaps, depending on what happens in the rest of the play, could be perhaps a fun way to play it.
Well, there's also the question of how genuine would this kind of contrition be? I'm so sorry I got caught. I will do performative contrition because that might get me a lesser sentence. Element as well might be at play. So I love it when there are lots of options for how you might play a scene. Briony.
I'm just really happy that Malevole has continued to just insult everybody. And he's stuck to his form, the way he's even to Bilioso's face when he's just sort of said, oh, you're sweating, your lady will sort that out for you, like, sod off, kind of. And then as soon as he's gone, he's like, well, look at the state of him. It's brilliant.
And you know and it's all encompassing as well. It's not just insulting people to the face, their face. It seems like his malcontentedness is coming from a genuine place, because it's coming out everywhere. It's leaking out of his pores. The world is the greatest shop of the devil. I like that as a line. I'm particularly a fan of that. I'm wondering how many branches it has. But yeah, man is the slime of this dung pit. It's not keen.
Licking up vomit one as well. That's got.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like once you stop, you just can't. You can't. Once you start, you just can't stop with this stuff. Eric,
I was gonna say this, like the whole undisguising himself just made me think of Zorro for some reason, because it's like that moment where he's been like fighting and killing all these people, and then like suddenly he's redeemed because he's well, not redeemed, but like sort of. Yes, I will go now as Duke. I can't remember his name. Anyway, and so on and so forth, which is kind of like, yeah, you can see how that would evolve from this.
Other thoughts, Lalitte?
It's almost as though when you change your clothes to virtuous clothes, that kind of starts having an inward effect on you. If we're meant to take any of these penitent speeches to be remotely kind of viable, then it's almost as though people, the habit does make the monk, So, because or if you're kind of put in a situation where you're in prison, then you haven't got much choice but to repent. You might as well, because there's no other option.
Yeah, I like that. Are people cosplaying their emotions, and their morality? Francis, then Briony.
Yeah, the moment when Malevole threw off his disguise, it felt a bit random to me. It was just like, why now? I mean, he could have done it earlier when he first gave Pietro the hermit's disguise. For me, it just felt a bit random, that moment.
Briony.
Agreeing with what Francis said, and I think also the fact that the stage direction for them to disrobe their disguises is shared with two people coming in as well, so it feels really hectic. Just you don't get a moment to like let that sink in, nor do the other character, and then there's someone else on, and it's a bit mad.
Though, of course, the question of the timing of how that actually all functions and how that plays out is the stage direction may make it seem more blunt. I mean, there is a logic to why it happens there. That's the point when Pietro says, "I will, restore Altafront to the Regency." So he goes, you're in luck. Ta-da! So it might be that it's not planned at all. It's just spontaneous and just go eat because there's a logic. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the point of Bilioso's entrance. I mean, he was sent with a letter to Florence about Aurelia's infidelity, and the reply is that she should be executed and an Altafront should be returned to power. So that's the turning point, really. I mean, when Malevole hears that, and when Pietro says that he will do all he can to get Altafront back into power, then it's safe for Malevole to become Altafront, and he's then got three other people helping him in his push to overthrow the current ruler.
Yes, and all this power play with the Florentines, it's basically when Florence says you are going to do something, when they say jump, you say how high. There's a sort of superpower versus small state quality to this that I find really interesting. Eric.
Well, I was going to say it's interesting how Aurelia is the one who has to get executed, as opposed to Mendoza or someone who's sort of actually responsible for deposing Altafronte.
Lynn.
Except that the deposition, the usurpation is not Florence's concern. It's and it is thought that the person with whom Aurelia was unfaithful is dead. That was Ferneze. So, once the Aurelia, the sister of the Florentine Duke, is dead, that alliance is dissolved. So we may as well go back to the legitimate Duke. something like that.
We could discuss this for ages, but we will have to move on, I'm afraid. Yeah, it's a busy old scene because it's sort of turning the wheel of the plot as we go into Act 5. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Bilioso and Passarello.
Fool, how dost thou like my cat in a long stop?
Excellent calf, my lord.
This calf have been a reveller this 20 year. When Monsieur Gundy lay here, ambassador, I could have carried a lady up and down at arm's end in a platter, I can tell you. There were those at the time who, to try the strength of a man's back and arms, would be cloistered. I have measured calves with most of the palace, and they come nothing near me. Besides, I think there may be not many armors in the arsenal will fit me, especially for the headpiece. I'll tell thee.
What, my lord?
I can eat stewed broth as it comes seething off the fire, or a custard as it comes reeking out of the oven. I think there are not many lords can do it. A good pomander, a little decayed in the scent, but 6 grains of musk, ground with rose water and tempered with a little civet, shall fetch her again presently.
Oh, I as a board with aquavitae.
And what, dost thou rail upon the ladies as thou wert wont?
I were better roast a live cat. I might do it with more safety. I'm a secret to the thieves as they're painting. There's Maquerelle, oldest board and a perpetual beggar. Did you never hear of her trick to be known in the city?
Never.
Why, she gets all the picture makers to draw her picture. When they've done, she most curtly finds fault with them one after another and never fetches them. They, in revenge of this, execute her in pictures as they do in Germany and hang her in their shops. By this means is she better known to the stinkards that she been 5 times casted.
For God, an excellent policy.
Are there any revels tonight, my lord?
Yes.
Good, my lord. Give me leave to break a fellow's pate that hath abused me.
Oh, whose pate?
Young Ferrado, my lord.
Take heed, he's very valiant. I have known him fight 8 quarrels in 5 days, believe it.
Oh, is he so great a quarreller? Why, then he's an arrant coward.
How prove you that?
Why, thus. He that quarrels seeks to fight, and he that fights seeks to die, and he that seeks to die never to fight more, and he that will quarrel and seeks means never to answer a man more. I think he's a coward.
Thou canst prove anything.
Anything but a rich knave, for I can flatter no man.
Well, be not drunk, good fool. I shall see you anon in the presence.
And they exit. Yes, so Bilioso and Passarello. Any thoughts on the room? Alan.
Covering a scene change.
Yeah.
Yep. We've been here before.
It's the broker's men in front of the tabs.
Oh, it is. It is literally that an addition added for transfer to the globe because they don't have music breaks between acts. So the previous scene had the exit of Malevole, and the next scene has the entrance of Malevole. So something needs to happen in between, which is this little scene. On its own merits, however, that noted, anything anyone wants to mark about it, Lynn?
Yeah, great little character sketch, though, of, an allowed fool and sort of emphasizing how shallow and vain and clueless Bilioso is. Like, he still thinks he's a stud muffin. Like, no.
I love Maquerelle's technique of getting her picture all over, and that reference to being carted, so that, if a courtesan was sort of shamed, and made to go round in a cart, it was probably quite good for her business. She could get to be seen.
Briony.
I just really like the line where he's asking permission to beat up someone that he doesn't like. Please, boss, is it all right if I just punch this guy?
Well, it's always polite to ask first. Other thoughts? Sarah, then Eric.
It's nothing really, but just going on from what Lynn was saying about him thinking he's a stud muffin, I did love that line of Bilioso's, "This calf hath been a reveller this 20 year." made me laugh a lot.
Eric.
Yeah, sort of. For a minute there, I thought it was like calf as in like a cow's child, like a cow. But then I was like, no, that's not it. Yeah, it's just interesting how this is actually like just a filler scene, but it does like just add to the characterization. It's not sort of, okay, it might be time wasting on some element, but it's actually a fun scene.
Oh yes, no. There's. Let's not knock fun scenes for the sake of fun scenes, so long as they are fun. And there is a structural need when changing venue to do something with it, and it gives us options, which I like to have. We won't linger here, however. We will move forward. I'm aware no one's listening to me because we're just watching the cat being put out. It's always very enjoyable to watch. We will, however, dive into Act 5, Scene 2. Enter from the opposite sides Malevole and Maquerelle singing.
A Dutchman for a drunkard.
The Dane for golden locks.
The Irishman for Uskbar.
The Frenchman for the... won't say it.
Oh, thou art a blessed creature. Had I a modest woman to conceal, I would put her to thy custody, for no reasonable creature would ever suspect her to be in thy company. Ah, thou art a melodious Maquerelle, thou picture of a woman and substance of a beast.
Enter Passarello with wine.
Oh, fool! Will you be ready anon to go with me to the revels? The hall would be so pestered anon.
Aye, as the country is with attorneys.
What hast thou there, fool?
Wine. I've learned to drink since I went with my Lord Ambassador. I'll drink to the health of Madame Maquerelle.
Why, thou wast wont to rail upon her.
Aye, but since I borrowed money of her, I'll drink her to her health now, as gentlemen visit brokers, or as knights send venison to the city, either to take out more money or to procure longer forbearance.
Give me the bowl. I drink a health to Altafront, our deposed Duke.
And drinks.
I'll take it.
Also drinks.
So now I'll begin a health to Madame Maquerelle.
Drinks as well.
Pooh, I will not pledge her.
Why, I pledged your lord.
I care not.
Not pledge Madame Maquerelle? Why then, will I spew up your lord again with his fool's finger?
Hold, I'll take it.
And drinks.
Ah, thou hast drunk my health, fool. I am friends with thee.
Art? When Grifton saw the unreconciled queen offering about his neck her arms to cast, he threw off sword and heart's malignant spleen, and lovely her below the loins embraced. Adieu, Madame Maquerelle.
And exit.
And how dost thou think of this transformation of state now?
Verily, very well. For we women always note the falling of the one is the rising of the other. Some must be fat, some must be lean, some must be fools, and some must be lords. Some must be knaves, and some must be officers. Some must be beggars, some must be knights. Some must be cuckolds, and some must be citizens. As, for example, I have 2 court dogs, the most fawning curs. The one called Watch, the other Catch. Now I, like Lady Fortune, sometimes love this dog, sometimes raise that dog, sometimes favor Watch, most commonly fancy Catch. Now, that dog which I favor, I feed, and he's so ravenous that what I give he never chaws it, gulps it down whole, without any relish of what he has, but with a greedy expectation of what he shall have. The other dog now...
No more dog, sweet Maquerelle, no more dog. And what hope hast thou of the Duchess Maria? Will she will she stoop to the Duke's law? Will she come, thinkest?
Let me see. Where's the sign now? Have you near a calendar? Where's the sign, trow ye?
Sign? Why, is there any moment in that?
Oh, believe me, a most secret power. Look ye, a Chaldean or an Assyrian, I'm sure it was a most sweet Jew, told me, court any woman in the right sign you shall not miss. But you must take her in the right vein then, as when the sign is in Pisces, a fishmonger's wife is very sociable. In Cancer, a precisian's wife is very flexible. In Capricorn, a merchant's wife hardly holds out. In Libra, a lawyer's wife is very tractable, especially if her husband be at the term. Only in Scorpio, 'tis very dangerous meddling. Has the Duke sent any jewel, any rich stones?
Aye, I think those are the best signs to take a lady in.
Enter a captain.
By your favour, signor, I must discourse with the Lady Maria, Altafronto's Duchess. I must enter for the Duke.
She shall give you interview. I received the guardianship of the citadel from the good Altafront, and for his use I'll keep it till I am of no use.
Wilt thou? Oh, heavens, what a Christian should be found in a buff jerkin. Captain Conscience, I love thee, Captain, we attend.
And exit captain.
And what hope hast thou of this Duchess's easiness?
'Twill go hard. She was a cold creature ever. She hated monkeys, fools, jesters, and gentlemen ushers extremely. She had the vile trick on't, not only to be truly, modestly honourable in her own conscience, but she would avoid the least wanton carriage that might incur suspect, as, God bless me, she had almost brought bed pressing out of fashion. I could scarce get fined for the lease of a lady's favour once in a fortnight.
Now, in the name of immodesty, how many maidenheads hast thou brought to the block?
Oh, let me see. Heaven forgive us our misdeeds. Here's the Duchess.
Saved by the bell. Enter Maria with captain.
God bless thee, lady.
Out of thy company.
We have brought thee tender of a husband.
I hope I have one already.
Nay, by mine honour, madam, as good had ne'er a husband as a banished husband. He's in another world now, I'll tell ye, lady. I have heard of a sect that maintained when the husband was asleep, the wife might lawfully entertain another man, for then her husband was as dead, much more when he is banished.
An honest creature.
Pish, honesty is but an art to seem so. Pray ye, what's honesty? What's constancy but fables feigned? Odd old fools' chat, devised by jealous fools to wrong our liberty.
Molly, he that loves thee is a duke, Mendoza. He will maintain thee royally, love thee ardently, defend thee powerfully, marry thee sumptuously, and keep thee, in despite of Rossicler or Donzel del Phoebo. There's jewels, if thou wilt so, if not so.
Captain, for God's love, save poor wretchedness from tyranny of lustful insolence. Enforce me in the deepest dungeon dwell, rather than here. Here around about is hell. Oh, my dear Altafront, where'er thou breathe, let my soul sink into the shades beneath, before I stay in honour. 'Tis thou hast, and long as I can die, I will live chaste.
'Gainst him that can enforce how vain is strife?
She that can be enforced has ne'er a knife. She that through force her limbs with lust enrolls, wants Cleopatra's asps and Portia's coals. God amend you.
And exit Maria with captain.
Now the fear of the devil forever go with thee. Maquerelle, I tell thee, I have found an honest woman. Faith, I perceive when all is done, there is of women, as of all other things, some good, most bad, some saints, some sinners. For as nowadays no courtier but has his mistress, no captain but has his cockatrice, no cuckold but has his horns, and no fool but has his feather. Even so, no woman but has her weakness, and feather too. No sex but has his. I can hunt the letter no farther. Oh God, how loathsome this toying is to me, that a duke should be forced to fall it. Well, stultorum plena sunt omnia. Better play the fool lord than be the fool lord. Now, where's your slight, Madam Maquerelle?
Why, are ye ignorant that 'tis said a squeamish affected niceness is natural to women, and that the excuse of their yielding is only, forsooth, the difficult obtaining? You must put her to it. Women are flax and will fire in a moment.
Why, was the flax put into thy mouth, and yet thou set fire, thou inflame her?
Mary, but I'll tell you now, you were too hot.
The fitter to have inflamed the flax, woman.
You were too boisterous, spleeny, for indeed...
Go, go, thou art a weak pandarus, now I see. Sooner earth's fire heaven itself shall waste, than all with heat can melt a mind that's chaste. Go thou, the duke's lime twig. I'll make the duke turn thee out of thine office. What, not get one touch of hope, and had her at such advantage?
Now, my conscience, now I think in my discretion we did not take her in the right sign. The blood was not in the true vein, sure.
And exit Maquerelle, enter Bilioso.
Make way there. The Duke returns from the enthronement. Malevole.
Out, rogue.
Malevole.
Hence, ye gross-jawed peasantly, out, go.
Nay, sweet Malevole, since my return I hear you are become the thing I always prophesied would be, an advanced virtue, a worthily employed faithfulness, a man of grace, dear friend. What? Si quoties peccant homines, as if as often as courtiers play the knaves, honest men can be angry. Why, look ye, we must collogue sometimes, forswear sometimes.
Be damned sometimes.
Right. Nemo omnibus horis sapit. No man can be honest at all hours. Necessity often depraves virtue.
I will commend thee to the Duke.
Do. Let's be friends, man.
And knaves, man.
Right. Let us prosper and purchase. Our lordships shall live, and our knavery be forgotten.
He that by any way gets riches, his means never shames him.
True.
For impudency and faithlessness are the mainstays to greatness.
By the Lord, thou art a profound lad.
By the Lord, thou art a perfect knave. Out, ye ancient damnation.
Peace, peace. Thou wilt not be a friend to me as I am a knave. Be not a knave to me as I am thy friend, and disclose me. Peace. Cornets.
Yes, and that's a cue for the entrance of people, which we'll get to in a moment. So, quite a lot going on here. Maquerelle gets to do her one-woman show for a while, and we get a glimpse at last of Mariah, much mentioned, but not really being a presence. Briony.
It's more than just similarities with scenes. There was a line that I read then that was exactly the same, and I think it was the first day on the Tuesday that I was reading Bilioso, and so I think I said it as Bilioso to Malevole, and Malevole has just said it right back to him.
Mm. Yeah, and the way the flow of the dialogue as well, that people are taking thoughts from other people as they're talking and twisting them or making fun of them. That there's something very responsive about the way the text flows too. It's doing all sorts of work. Lynn, then Rachael, I think.
Yeah, speaking of repetitions, we have Mariah saying, in the presence of her husband, to her husband, I would never cheat on my husband. I'm not doing that. I'd rather die. So, which is a little bit of a redux of the two interchanges in a couple of scenes back where Aurelia confesses to her husband that she's sorry, and Pietro confesses to the legitimate Duke that he's sorry. We have all these confessions or revelations to significant people that the speaker knows not.
And what's interesting about this scene is it doesn't make Malevole, or more importantly, Outerfront, a bastard. Because we have these scenes where people turn up in disguise and let me just find out what you really think of me. Because he can't unveil himself because Maquerelle's in the room. So it's not like, there's a bit of an out with the scene of, well, he would unveil himself and not test her in any way because there's somebody else present and he can't. So it solves a problem that sometimes we have with these kind of scenes where you're just sort of going, well, that's a slightly dodgy thing to be doing there, and so that makes this scene all the more interesting, especially with Maquerelle doing what Maquerelle is trying to do in this scene too. Rachael, then Alan.
No, I was just gonna say about the astrology bits that she's talking about, how the other day we had the scene with the hunt, and it was kind of like a subversion of those other scenes where it's supposed to portend some tragedy. Like Pisces has to do with fish, and then I don't know what a Prescient is, but Capricorn is supposed to have to do with mercantilism, and Libra is about law and judgment. Scorpio, in Duchess of Malfi, the one son is born under in the 8th house, which is supposed to be Scorpio, and anything to do with that is supposed to be like death. So that they're not doing this under Scorpio's sign means it won't lead to anybody dying. And then at the end, when they get rejected, she's just like, I guess we didn't come in under the correct sign. I don't know. It's just a fun little bit.
Yeah, and we have this interesting segue at the beginning because we can perhaps infer from the opening of Act 5, Scene 2, where the act would have originally opened. They enter singing, but it might be that it's a continuation of singing that was happening with whatever maybe musical interlude is going on between scenes, so between acts. So the singing moment, and just actually the whole back and forth between Malevole and Passarello and Maquerelle, the drinking, who will pledge to who. There's all sorts of interesting little personal dynamics which are not essential, but do seem to add something which I'm liking. Alan, then Lalitte.
Yeah, I think you've possibly already covered it, but the fact that it doesn't say in stage directions that Malevole is back in his disguise, because otherwise I was just thinking that it's just showing the rest of the characters to be more incredibly dim than they already seem.
We can probably assume that he undisguises himself is just for that moment earlier, and that unless otherwise stated, he's always in disguise. Master of disguise he is, because nobody recognises him at all. Eric. Oh no, sorry, Lalitte, wasn't it? And then
yes,
Eric.
I was going to say it's interesting that Maquerelle voices this contempt for chastity from a kind of emotion. It's that Mariah's chaste, so therefore she's a cold fish. Carry on, whatever. But she doesn't make chastity and modesty or anything like that sound remotely appealing. And it's interesting that you kind of get that viewpoint expressed by at least one character.
Eric.
I was going to say that there's a lot of prose in this section. I mean, we've been talking about this kind of thing sort of throughout, but it's that thing of if they're honest only in verse, then even when he undisguises himself, Malevole is not being honest at all, which is quite an interesting thought. And yeah, also it's kind of like, why are you testing your wife? You could just tell her, but also you can't. And then yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting scene.
Yeah, he's not. The situation has been set up that he can't unveil himself at this time. Which is convenient because it will perhaps make later action more exciting.
But
who
also
knows?
He has that aside, which is still in prose, and it's like, is he being honest about that, or because he's been like, how listen is this doing to me? And then it's like he's been. I feel like he's been doing this for years, or however many months he's been deposed, or thrown out. for a while, and it just feels like, well, he's not really telling the truth to anybody.
Well, yeah, there's an interesting question. Well, in general, if it's an aside, then it's probably true, though there may be exceptions to that. But it does get that aside there does sort of get to this question that I think Lynn brought up earlier, where we was talking about, how sincere anyone ever is, and when the disguise you're being led by your clothing, and the situation that you're in, rather than some deep inner truth. That it's like the surface is more important than your inner core, and that maybe it's dancing on that theme. It may not be. I'm just saying words now. Eric.
Well, we did have that thing about the virgin white wall and the sort of turned black by the what's called candle flame. So yesterday.
Yeah, but that was more to do with, wasn't it, sort of reputation. But then maybe it's to do with other general themes of corruption. Once you've been a bit corrupted, you can never go back to being pure kind of logic, which is quite dodgy. Rachael, then we will move on. Oh, no, Rachael. We will just move on. So, at the moment we paused, Malevole was chatting to Bilioso. Always a lovely flow. At which point, calls for cornets. Enter Prepasso and Ferrado. Enter 2 pages with lights. Celso and Equato. Mendoza in Duke's robes and Garino.
On. Leave us.
Exit everyone who's just walked on, except for Malevole and Mendoza.
Stay. Where's the hermit?
With Duke Pietro.
Is he dead? Is he poisoned?
Dead as the Duke is.
Good. Excellent. He will not blab. Secureness lives in secrecy. Come hither.
Thou hast a certain strong villainous scent about thee my nature cannot endure.
Scent, man. What returns Maria? What answer to our suit?
Cold, frosty, she is obstinate.
Then she's but dead. 'Tis resolute, she dies. Black deed only through black deed safely flies.
Pooh! Per celera semper celeribus tutum est iter.
What? Art a scholar? Art a politician? Sure thou art an errant knave.
Who, I? I have been twice an under-sheriff man. Well, I will go rail upon some great man, that I may purchase the bastinado, or else go marry some rich Genoan lady, and instantly go travel.
Travel? When thou art married?
Aye, 'tis your young lord's fashion to do so, though he was so lazy, being a bachelor, that he would never travel so far as the university. Yet when he married her, tails off and catso for England.
And why for England?
Because there is no brothel houses there.
Nor courtesans?
Neither. Your whore went down with the stews, and your punk came up with your Puritan.
Canst thou empoison?
Excellently. No Jew, apothecary, or politician better. Look ye, here's a box. Whom wouldst thou empoison? Here's a box. Which opened, and the fume taken up in conduits, through which the brain purges itself, doth instantly for 12 hours space bind up all show of life in a deep senseless sleep. Here's another, which, being opened under the sleeper's nose, chokes all the pores of life, kills him suddenly.
I'll try experiments. 'Tis good not to be deceived. So, cazzo.
And seems to poison Malevole, who falls.
Who would fear that may destroy? Death hath no teeth nor tongue, and he that's great to him are slaves. Shame, murder, fame, and wrong. Celso!
And enter Celso.
My honored lord.
The good Malevole, that plain-tongued man, alas, is dead on sudden, wondrous strangely. He held in our esteem good place. Celso, see him buried, see him buried.
I shall observe ye.
And, Celso, prithee, let it be thy care tonight to have some pretty show to solemnize our high installment, some music, masquery. We'll give fair entertain unto Maria, the Duchess to the banished alto front. Thou shalt conduct her from the citadel unto the palace. Think on some masquery.
Of what shape, my lord?
What shape? Why, any quick done fiction, as some brave spirits of the genuine dukes to come out of Elysium, forsooth, led in by Mercury to gratulate our happy fortune, some such anything, some far-fet thing, some far-fet trick good for ladies, some stale toy, or other, no matter, so to be of our devising. Do thou prepare it. 'Tis but for fashion's sake. Fear not, it shall be graced, man, it shall take.
Full service.
All thanks. Our hand shall not be close to thee. Farewell. Now is my treachery secure, now can we fall. Mischief that prospers, men do virtue call. I'll trust no man, he that by tricks gets wreaths, keeps them with steel. No man securely breathes out of deserved ranks. The crowd will mutter, fool. Who cannot bear with spite, he cannot rule. The chiefest secret for a man of state is to live senseless of a strengthless hate.
And exit Mendoza.
Death of the damned thief, I'll make one in the mask. Thou shalt have some brave spirits of the antique dukes.
My lord, what strange delusion?
Most happy, dear Celso, poisoned with an empty box. I'll give thee all anon. My lady comes to court, there is a whirl of fate comes tumbling on. The castle's captain stands for me, the people pray for me, and the great leader of the just stands for me. Then courage, Celso, for no disastrous chance can ever move him. That leaveth nothing but a God above him.
And exit. Yeah, so it's again, fun scene of just going, so have you got any poisons? Oh yes, we've got his selection here. This one will just make you fall asleep, and this one will kill you. Oh, lovely. Let me which of course, knowing in advance this is where this is going, Malevole gets to overact for a bit, probably. Thoughts in the room, Eric?
Well, this bit with the poison is kind of, it mirrors part of the previous scene where Maquerelle asks for a calendar. It's like, do you happen to carry a calendar around? It's like, in the time of smartphones, maybe, but not in this.
Other thoughts? Yes, somebody else who doesn't die. Alan just put that in the chat. Yeah, we've had two scenes where someone suddenly starts up. One which is not foreshadowed at all, and this one which the audience should have twigged what was going on there. Other thoughts? Lynn?
Yeah, I can't find it now, but I was struck by the line, honesty is treachery that succeeds, something like that. But, you know, the whole might makes right ethos of the moral world of this play, there in a nutshell. Yikes.
Mendoza accidentally quoting Seneca, and Malevole sort of quoting it back at him in Latin. It's an interesting little exchange and games that the text is playing. Other thoughts, Eric?
Well, like Mendoza says, "I'll trust no man," and kind of like, I mean, if we trusted any of the characters by this point, I feel like we would have been fools.
Indeed. Is there anyone we trust? Well, there is someone. There is one definitely, so far as we can tell, nice person. That's Mariah, who
Well,
and
And
Celso
Celso.
possibly
Celso.
as
And
well.
Celso.
Sarah.
Yeah, he's like, I'll trust no man, but he is the most ridiculous trusting fool. I mean, that's the irony of this Mendoza. He really is, because he just assumes that what everybody is telling him is the truth. Like, did you murder so-and-so? Oh, yeah. Is this a poison? Oh, yeah. It's he's just the most gullible idiot.
Well, to be fair, he just tested it out on someone and they seemed to die.
Yeah, but he was the one who gave it to him.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, and he does seem to be sort of thinking things out as he goes along. And it's sort of just what happened with Mariah? She wasn't keen. Oh, then she's dead. Yeah, definitely kill her. And it's like it's like there is no thought process going on. He's just reacting. And I can't remember who said it last time, but that idea that perhaps Mendoza is, once he got on this roller coaster ride, he's just doesn't know how to get off, and it's just one thing falls on another, and that actually maybe he's quite desperate for all his expression of being I am Duke now. His position is really tenuous, and perhaps he knows that. Francis, then Eric.
Yeah, I think you could accuse most of the characters in this play of that. They're all just making it up as they go along, including Malevole. I mean, he doesn't, he wants his dukedom back, it would seem, but he doesn't seem to have any hard and fast plan for achieving this. He just reacts to whatever's going on, pretty craftily, I would say, but just the same, there's no plan here.
There might be a plan now. I mean, you get the impression at the end of Act 4 when he's got Pietro, and but even that all felt quite spontaneous. That I've got this tool, I've got these on my side now. That maybe they've spent the interval coming up with a plan. But you're right; it does seem so improvisatory all the way through. I'll just turn up in disguise and figure out what I can do. Eric.
I was gonna say that at least we didn't get that element of in the death of Robin Hood and so on, where we had like that whole scene of describing how he tested the poison on his dog, and you're like, at least Malevole didn't go that far. I mean, he just kind of went, yes, well, this is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can be, we've had much mention of dogs earlier, but let's be glad no one tried to poison a dog. That would have been bad. Lynn?
Yeah, I was thinking about what Francis's observation, that this feels so seat of the pants, that everybody seems to be like making it up as they go along, which is, I think, maybe kind of one of the brilliances of this text, of this play, because the play itself had to be so carefully planned and plotted, but then it creates this impression of things unfolding in unexpected ways.
Lois, muted at present.
Yeah, I think the reference to revels, I mean, if you've seen enough plays from this period, you know that something is going to happen during the revels. So I think that's a clue that there's a sort of plan underway.
Yes, we've jumped a little too far ahead in time to have really developed that theme as much as perhaps it's occurring here. But yes, there's going to be some entertainment. I'm sure that'll go well. Lynn.
Yeah, Spanish tragedy set that up, established that convention. So yeah, you know that's going to go well.
I think Elizabeth said last time that was hoping for lots of corpses. So if this is this is the kind of situation where stuff can go down. Let's get into that. We have one more scene to go. We may or may not pause during it. Let's see how it goes. Act 5, Scene 3, as we're going with the numbering. Enter Bilioso and Prepasso, 2 pages before them, Maquerelle, Bianca, and Emilia.
Make room there, room for the ladies. Why, gentlemen, will not ye suffer ladies to be entered in the great chamber? Why, gallants, and you, sir, to drop your torque where the beauties must sit too.
There's a great fellow plays the knave. Why'dst thou not strike him?
Let him play the knave in God's name. Thinkest thou I have no more wit than to strike a great fellow? The music, more lights, revelling, scaffolds, do you hear? Let there be oaths now ready at the door. Swear out the devil himself. Let's leave the ladies and go see if the lords be ready for them.
Exeunt Bilioso, Prepasso, and pages.
And by my troth, beauties, why do you not put you into the fashion? This is a stale cut. You must come in fashion. Look ye must be all felt and feather. Felt upon your bare hair. Look you, these tiring things are justly out of request now. And you hear, you must wear falling bands. You must come into the falling fashion. There's such a deal of pinning these ruffs when the fine, clean fall is worth all. And again, if you should chance to take a nap in the afternoon, your falling band requires no poting stick to recover his form. Believe me, no fashion to the falling, I say.
And is not Signor St. Andrew a gallant fellow now?
By my maidenhead, the honor and he agree as well together as a satin suit and woolen stockings.
But is not Marshal Makeroom, my servant in reversion, a proper gentleman?
Yes, in reversion, as he had his office, as in truth he hath all things in reversion. He has his mistress in reversion, his clothes in reversion, his wit in reversion, and indeed is a suitor to me for my dog in reversion. But in good verity, he is as proper a gentleman in reversion as, and indeed as fine a man as may be, having a red beard and a pair of warped legs.
But in faith, I am most monstrously in love with Count Quidlibet. In Quodlibet, is he not a pretty dapper unidal gallant?
He is even one of the most busy-fingered lords. He will put the beauties to the squeak most hideously.
Re-enter Bilioso.
Room, make a lane there. The Duke is entering. Stand handsomely for beauty's sake. Take up the ladies there. So, cornets.
And before everyone enters with a flourish, I think there's quite a lot to take in there. Oh my beauties, he will put the beauties to the squeak most hideously. Yes, all sorts of interesting lines and stuff. I just like Bilioso just going, no, more lights, more music, more everything. That's and he's not wrong. Actually, if you're going to have a party, go all for it. Yeah, Lois.
Yeah, I just want to draw your attention to the feather references, because back in the induction, one of the pretended spectators says that he wished he hadn't brought his feather with him because feathers have become a joke, and there are associations of fool and feather, and this is really where it comes from. I mean, they're talking about the earlier version of the play at Blackfriars, which is why they say Blackfriars have spoiled Blackfriars for feathers. Meaning Blackfriars, the theater, has kept the feather makers of Blackfriars, their stock has gone down in the market because of this.
Yes, in jokes that a modern production may decide to do something with, or run with, find an analogue for, or adjust. Lalitte.
Yeah, it's just this stuff about ruffs. I'll have to post this next time. I found a very interesting essay at JSTOR about Dutch starching, and basically the iconic ruff was entirely dependent on immigrant women who had the skill to starch them and set the shape with what's called a poting stick, and there were lots of kind of jokes about phallic poting sticks. So it's just interesting to find it here, because I think it's probably comes up even more in the Dutch courtesan, but yeah, that was always, it was just something I'd sort of noticed, that I didn't know the fashions kind of like changed as quickly. I thought ruffs kept on until at least the 1610s, but...
Ebbs and flows all over, or just the style and the cut, or the way you have them. Just the way Maquerelle is, acting as the sort of fashion advisor to these young things in the court, Emilia and Bianca. The name Bianca lands in a slightly different way for modern ears in the UK than probably intended originally. Eric.
Yeah, I was gonna say just like you must be all felt. I was thinking that's the verb, and then suddenly she went into felt and feather, felt upon your bare hair, and I'm like, okay, wait, no, different sort of, yeah. Now also just like the way she goes, by my maidenhead, la honor and he agree as well together as a satin suit and woolen stockings. It's just like sort of, yes. She's very good at these sort of. She kind of deserves Malevole, doesn't she?
Of course, there's that whole thing about falling, and fashion is to fall, so that's all kind of biblical.
Yeah, there's almost a bit of a sense of perhaps they've been doing the falling gag a few too many times in this play now. It's like Maquerelle says it every scene. Not every scene, but it feels like it. But
not one to honor, yeah.
Lots of stuff going on. I shouldn't have started that hair in the chat. Everyone's trying to decode things to do with the name Bianca. You don't want to go there. Just don't worry about it. It's very trivial. Anyway, we will, however, continue through the rest of the scene. So we've had call for cornets, at which point re-enter Prepasso, joins to Bilioso. Enter these 2 pages with lights. These pages get a lot of light action going on here. Ferrado, Mendoza at the other door. 2 more pages with lights, and the captain leading in Maria. Mendoza meets with Maria and closeth with her, and the rest fall back.
Madame, with gentle ear receive my suit. A kingdom's safety should o'erpie slight rights. Marriage is merely nature's policy, then, since unless our royal beds be joined, danger and civil tumults fright the state. Be wise as you are fair, give way to fate.
What wouldst thou affliction to our house? Thou ever devil, till 'twas thou that banished my true noble lord.
I,
by thy plots, thy black stratagems. 12 moons have suffered change since I beheld the loved presence of my dearest lord, and thou, far worse than death. He parts but soul from a weak body, but thou soul from soul disseverest that which God's own hand did knit, thou scant of honour, full of devilish wit.
will check your too intemperate lavishness. I can and will.
What canst?
Go to. In banishment thy husband dies.
He ever is at home that's ever wise.
Used ne'er meet more. Reason should love control.
Not meet. She that dear loves, her love still in her soul.
You are but a woman, lady, you must yield.
Save me, thou innated bashfulness, thou only ornament of woman's modesty.
Modesty, death, I'll torment thee.
Do, urge all torments, all afflictions try. I'll die, my lords, as long as I can die.
Thou obstinate, thou shalt die. Captain, that lady's life is forfeited to justice. We have examined her, and we do find she hath empoisoned the reverend hermit. Therefore we command severest custody. Nay, if you'll do's no good, you'd do's no harm. A tyrant's peace is blood.
Oh, thou art merciful, O gracious devil. Rather by much let me condemned be for seeming murder than be damned for thee. I'll mourn no more. Come, girt my brows with flowers. Revel and dance, soul, now thou wish thou hast. Die like a bride, poor heart. Thou shalt die chaste.
Enter Aurelia in mourning habit.
Life is a frost of cold.
Oh, I apologise. That should be Aurelia's line.
Yes. Oh. Life is a frost of cold felicity, and death the thaw of all our vanity. Was not an honest priest that wrote so?
Who let her in?
Forbear.
Oh, bear!
Alas, calamity is everywhere. Sad misery, despite your double doors, will enter even in court.
Peace.
I have done.
One word, take heed.
I have done.
Enter Mercury with loud music.
Silenian Mercury, the god of ghosts, from gloomy shades that spread the lower coasts, calls for high-famed Genoan dukes to come and make his presence their Elysium, to pass away this high triumphal night with song and dances, court's more soft delight.
Are you god of ghosts? I have a suit pending in hell betwixt me and my conscience. I would fain have thee help me to an advocate.
Mercury shall be your lawyer, lady.
Nay, faith, Mercury has too good a face to be a right lawyer.
Peace, forbear! Mercury presents the mask.
Cornets, the song to the cornets, so music, etc., which playing the mask enters. And the mask consists of Malevole, Pietro, Ferneze, and Celso in white robes, with duke's crowns upon laurel wreaths, pistolets, and short swords under their robes.
Celso, court Maria for our love. Lady, be generous, be gracious, yet grace.
With me, sir.
Malevole takes Maria to dance.
Yes, more loved than my breath, with you I'll dance.
Why then, you dance with death. But come, sir, I was ne'er more apt for mirth. Death gives eternity a glorious breath. Oh, to die honoured, who would fear to die?
They die in fear who live in villainy.
Yes, believe him, lady, and be ruled by him.
Madam, with me.
And Pietro takes Aurelia to dance.
Must then be miserable?
I need not wish.
Oh, yet forbear my hand. Away, fly, fly! Oh, seek not her that only seeks to die.
Poor loved soul.
What? Wouldst court misery?
Yes.
She'll come too soon. Oh, my grieved heart.
Lady, had done, had done. Come, let us dance. Be once free, be once from sorrow free.
Art a sad man?
Yes, sweet.
Then we'll agree.
And Ferneze takes Maquerelle and Celso Bianca. Then the cornets sound the measure. One change and rest.
Leave it, lady. Shall I swear? Let me enjoy you in private, and I'll marry you by my soul.
I'd rather you swear by your body. I think that would prove the more regarded oath with you.
I'll swear by them both, to please you.
Oh, damn them not both to please me, for God's sake.
Faith, sweet creature, let me enjoy you tonight, and I'll marry you tomorrow fortnight by my troth, La.
His troth, La, believe him not. That kind of coney catching is as stale as Sir Oliver Anchovy's perfumed jerkin. Promise of matrimony by a young gallant to bring a virgin lady into a fool's paradise, make her a great woman, and then cast her off. 'Tis as common and natural to a courtier as jealousy to a citizen, gluttony to a Puritan, wisdom to an alderman, pride to a tailor, or an empty handbasket to one of those sixpenny damnations. Of his troth, La, believe him not. Traps to catch polecats.
Keep your face constant, let no sudden passion speak in your eyes.
Hail to front.
A tyrant's jealousies are very nimble. You receive it all?
My heart, though not my knees, doth humbly fall lowest to the earth to thee.
Peace. Next change, no words.
Speak to such, I. Oh, what will of thoughts.
And cornets sound the measure over again. Witched danced, they unmask.
Malevole.
They environ Mendoza, bending their pistols on him.
No.
Alto front. Duke Pietro. Ferneze, ha?
Duke
together now.
Alta front.
Duke
Duke
Alta
Alta front.
Duke out of
Duke.
Cornets a flourish, they seize upon Mendoza.
Are we surprised? What strange delusions mock our senses? Do I dream? Or have I dreamt these 2 days' space? Where am I?
Where an arch villain is.
Oh, lend me breath till I am fit to die. For peace with heaven, for your own soul's sake, vouchsafe me life.
Ignoble villain, whom neither heaven nor hell, goodness of God or man, could once make good.
Base, treacherous wretch, what grace canst thou expect that has grown impudent in gracelessness?
Oh, life.
Slave, take thy life. Wert thou defenced, thorough blood and wounds, the sternest horror of a civil fight would I achieve thee, but prostrate at my feet I scorn to hurt thee. 'Tis the heart of slaves that deigns to triumph over peasants' graves. For such thou art, since birth doth ne'er enroll a man 'mong monarchs, but a glorious soul. Oh, I have seen strange accidents of state. The flatterer, like the ivy, clip the oak, and waste it to the heart, lust so confirmed that the black act of sin itself not shamed to be termed courtship. Oh, they that are as great as be their sins, let them remember that the inconstant people love many princes merely for their faces and outward shows, and they do covet more to have a sight of these than of their virtues. Yet thus much let the great ones still conceive. When they observe not heaven's imposed conditions, they are no kings, but forfeit their commissions.
Oh, good my lord, I have lived in the court this 20 year. They that have been old courtiers and come to live in the city, they are spited at and thrust to the walls like apricocks. Good my lord.
My lord, I did know your lordship in this disguise. You ever heard me say if Alto Front did return, I would stand for him? Besides, 'twas your lordship's pleasure to call me wittol and cuckold. You must not think but that I knew you. I would have put it up so patiently.
You overjoyed spirits, wipe your long wet eyes.
And variously speaking to individuals as we go.
Hence with this man. An eagle
That's
takes
Mendoza.
not, an eagle takes not flies. You to your vows,
And that's to Pietro and Aurelia.
and thou into the suburbs.
To Maquerelle.
You to my worst friend I would hardly give, thou art a perfect old knave.
To Bilioso.
All pleased live you two unto my breast.
To Celso and the captain.
Thou to my heart.
To Maria.
The rest of idle actors idly part, and as for me I here assume my right, to which I hope all's pleased to all good night.
And the cornets play, there's a flourish, and everyone exits apart from the epilogue.
Your modest silence, full of heedy stillness, makes me thus speak. A voluntary illness is merely senseless, but unwilling error, such as proceeds from too rash youthful fervour, may well be called a fault, but not a sin. Rivers take names from founts where they begin. Then let not too severe an eye peruse the slighter breaks of our reformed muse, who could herself of faults detect, but that she knows 'tis easy to correct. Though some men's labour troth to err is fit, as long as wisdom's not professed but wit. Then till another's happier muse appears, till his Thalia feasts your learned ears, to whose desertful lamps pleased fates impart, art above nature, judgment above art. Receive this peace, which hope nor fear yet daunteth. He that knows most how much he wanteth.
And thus the play ends. There's a lot to unpack in a very, very busy little scene, but we've got one of those scenes beloved of film where people are dancing away with one, and then they move around, and the camera zooms in on one couple, and they're going, oh, who are you? And marry me, no, so it's doing all sorts of fun business. We're getting some of those really nice random sort of word things going on. Forbear, alas, calamity is everywhere. And peace, I've done. I have done. Really love that. And Prepasso just going, shush, it's the good bit now. Yeah, there's a lot to take in that's really nice, and it's a really nicely organised coup. They all managed to dance themselves into a position to point guns at the usurper. Nicely organised. Thoughts from the room. Briony first.
I just felt like the reveal with Mariah was a bit of a non-event. Because all he does is just sort of say, like, don't react, and then she's like, oh, it's you! Suddenly, through this costume that she couldn't possibly recognise him through moments before, I don't know, it just seemed a bit weird.
Takes the mask off, it is I. Ooh. This question of how much time you want to linger with Mariah, just simply on that she's really not been that involved in the rest of the action, in that sense. I think maybe it's the question of Pietro and Aurelia might be an interesting one as well on that. It's all relatively brief. Lots of hands flying up. I'll go to Eric, then Lynn, then Lois.
I was going to say, it just seems like they're all trapped in a different sort of play. Like Mendoza is trapped in no exit. Malevole is trapped in like Zorro. Pietro is trapped in something else, and then like sort of, I don't know, a tragedy or something. And I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Lynn.
Yeah, that's just, I'm just thinking about what Eric said. It's like there's so much that's so smart about that, but I can't formulate a response to that right at the spur of the moment. What I was going to talk about is like this last sequence with the mask and the dancing and stuff. I think a director who's very skilled at staging could really make this work just like gangbusters. I know that, Briony has a good point that reveal of Altafront's identity to his wife, she was kind of a non-event or under, but you could choreograph that. They dance to the edge of the stage, to the apron of the stage, and he has a ring that she recognizes, or he like lifts his mask or something, so that, in the absence of a camera, the staging draws the audience's attention to their wordless exchange where that moment happens. And that could be really powerful. So much depends on the choreography and the staging of this. But if you had a director who was really good at that, this could be super brilliant, I think.
Yeah, and with the music as well, because the music changes the timing, and of course they are the last. It's the last reveal as well. So you've got various reveals that are going on, either inferred or not, throughout that little dance. So it's like it could be set up in all sorts of different ways. Lois.
Yeah, that's more or less what I was going to say, that during all that music and dancing, there's plenty of time for all four of the conspirators to tell the women they're dancing with what's going to happen and get them to go along with it, or at least keep out of the way, in the case of Maquerelle, for instance. And I think it would be much clearer to an audience in performance.
And you have this, Ferneze takes Maquerelle and Celso Bianca. They dance and then they change so that Ferneze ends up with Bianca, and they're by, they get to have their little exchange. And there's all sorts of sort of complications about what's going on between Ferneze and Bianca, because the script is slightly contradictory as to what their relationship is. And that's partly because the additions slightly change what's going on between them. So there is a certain continuity issue that a production needs to sort out as to what's going on there. Francis?
Yeah, I'm still laughing at that moment where Aurelia suddenly appears at the party, and it just feels so random. And Mendoza says, "Who let her in?" I mean, it's a modern line. It's just.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And there's so many lines. As somebody said in the chat, there are so many lines in this play that feel just slip into modern parlance so well. For all the poetry and for all the language games that this play throws at us, it just throws us things we just go, we're bang on with that. Other thoughts, Lynn?
Well, I was just going to respond to Francis just now when Altafront is giving his little closing speech. He says something, and you two have been loyal to me the whole time, and it's the captain, and basically the captain of the tower or whatever the equivalent is, and Celso, who we know is his confederate. So evidently the captain, the head guard of the prison, has been on the legitimate Duke's side for some time. So he let her in. It's the captain, her guard let her in because in on the plot.
And there's an interesting moment with Mendoza where you're sort of going, are we surprised? What's going on? Do I dream? And then at the last line, he just goes, "Where am I?" And you can just imagine him going, Oh, I've not been well. Am I dressed as the? Why am I dressed like the Duke? I mean, that may not be real, but yeah, there is an interesting sense there, like he's sort of trying to life, which I think is his last line, actually, isn't it? It's just Eric, then Lois.
I just like the idea that Pietro and Aurelia end up together because they're both depressed people can be together as well. It's not like just a happy ending for the happy people or like the people who are looking to be restore themselves to power and so on. But it's also a happy ending for them. Goths can be happy too.
Lois.
What I like is the fact that Mendoza, after having behaved atrociously all through the play, is simply kicked out. I mean, that's what the stage direction says, and that is the original direction, that he gets kicked out. None of the horrible vengeance that you'd expect.
Yes, we have to say to Elizabeth, we're sorry. Nobody dies. I don't think I stated at the beginning. This is a tragicomedy. It's designed that we go through some difficulties, but we all come out fine in the end. Or do we? Discuss. How confident are we feeling about this court now with Altafronte is back? Altafront, how do we feel, Lynn?
Well, in response to you, Rob, I'm not sure that even matters, because what matters is the play as aesthetic object. What it does, we're not pretending that there's any reality outside the story of the play. I would argue that maybe it doesn't really matter whether Mendoza's coming back to depose the current Duke again. That's not what this is trying to do. And it just occurred to me. I'm probably this is my age and my culture, so maybe this isn't going to mean anything to very many people in this room. But you know what this play is that movie The Stuntman with Peter O'Toole. That's what this play is. And if you haven't seen it, see it. Just see it.
That's a great film.
Yeah. Briony, I think. Did you wave? No, you didn't wave. Sudden look of fear. I'll go to Eric, who has waved.
I was gonna say I feel like the epilogue was definitely added much after like certain like experiences with performances where I think the audience has not applauded and they've just sort of gone, it's fun, right? So like sort of the epilogue is there going, your modest silence full of heedy stillness makes me thus speak. I know you're quiet because obviously you don't like the ending or something.
Well,
don't take it too seriously.
There is something conversational going on with the epilogue in relation to other plays and other playwrights, which I don't think you need to worry about here. But we've come to the end of at this point of an interesting series of issues between playwrights and players that this is tangentially referring to. So I don't know if Lois was going to address that question or thought.
Well, I was just going to say it could be ironic as well if they're all cheering, laughing their heads off, and then somebody comes on and says, "Your modest silence makes me," could work that way too.
You can play with it. In fact, we have there is an episode of the podcast dedicated to this epilogue. So if you want to hear more about that, go to the Beyond Shakespeare podcast. There is a short reading of that in another context, and those questions are, I think, addressed. I can't remember actually. Years ago since I actually recorded the damn thing, so I can't remember. Lalitte.
Yeah, something that's really struck me is and maybe this is what adds to the frenetic and improvised nature of feel of the play, is that there are hardly any soliloquies. You might expect the character of Malevole, or whatever I don't know how to say it, but to kind of confide in the audience, and that might kind of center the drama a bit around our hero, but there isn't. There's almost no, apart from a few asides, I think, there's no one like, this is what I'm about to do, and I'm going to, which could kind of like help with the plot as well. If someone says, right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, so everyone keep up with me. But it's all in the interaction.
Yeah, he does do long speeches, but they're not soliloquies in that sense. They may contain that, and that some of them may be, and playing a double game, but it's not like the spotlight comes down and he goes, I'm very sad inside, in that same straightforward way. Sarah,
are we into final thoughts now?
We are now definitely drifting into final thoughts, and I do want to go around the room in a relatively specific order before we go into some additional final thoughts after the final thought.
Can I put in a final thought?
Go for a final thought.
Because I haven't read this play before, I've never seen this play. I can imagine it would work gorgeously on stage, and I really want to see it in a theatre now. But the thing that keeps occurring to me as well is that this could be a really good play for Zoom. If you actually embraced the Zoom, if you made the Zoom part of it, so it wouldn't be one of those plays where you're kind of just, it's a play and you were doing it on Zoom. It's a play that's actually, Zoom is integral to the play. So for example, the mask at the end could become, a Zoom entertainment where, if it's set in a company, and at the end they all decide to do a play for their Christmas party or whatever, and so they're all putting on masks and pretending that they're going to do a play. You could actually build it into Zoom, and the reason I think this is partly because of what Lalitte just said. This is why I wanted to say it now, and what we were saying earlier about the fact that everybody is making it up on the go. It's like, this is such a, there's so much back and forth. There are so many people reacting and making up the next stage of what they're going to do based on what they've just heard from the person they're talking to. That would lend itself so well to Zoom conversations. And even like just things like, the fact that Mendoza gets kicked out at the end. Someone literally switches off his camera and he's just ejected from the meeting,
Who gave Aurelia an invite?
Yes, exactly.
A room invite.
Who let her in? Literally, who let her into the meeting? Seriously. I mean, I just think, there's, obviously you'd have to jigger around with it slightly. But so many plays, when you think about adapting them for Zoom, you think, oh, yeah, okay, you could do it. You could do this. You could do that. Blah blah blah. But this is actually, you could actually make this into a Zoom play. and just have all those characters interacting. And again, because of what Lalitte said about the fact that there aren't many monologues, it's everybody talking to somebody else, and then people join, and then people leave. And even things like the fact that everybody comes on to the meeting, and then Mendoza says, right, you two stay here, everyone else go off, and everyone has to leave the meeting again. You know, it's like, I just think it would work really well.
So
what
Malevole is the Jackie, what's her name, who kicked back.
You have no power here, Mendoza. You have no authority here, I should say. Yeah.
No authority, that was it, yeah. Oh, God.
Okay, we will be going into final thoughts because we'll almost do 2 rounds of final thoughts on this to a degree. So I'm going to go to Lynn. Final thoughts about the play overall. You've been here all week. Again, the usual question about performance. What one might go with, any adjustments. I think we've noted any of the obvious problematic-y things. We don't need to go over anything that we may have gone over too much before. But yeah, just the general shape of this play.
Well, to quote the film, The Stuntman, Sue fucking Perlatives. There's a way in which tragedy is a rejection of comedy. It often starts out, it looks like things are going to work out, especially domestic tragedy. There are 2 people who are in love and then everything goes to shit. And in revenge tragedy, there's part of you that knows better, but that still kind of hopes that things are going to work out. And of course it doesn't. And you've got the stage littered with bodies. And the world is all hopeless and everything is horrible, like, why can't King Edward just go off with Galveston and have their little love nest? No, it can't work out. So there's always an element of comedy gone wrong in tragedy, or there often is. And what is just sort of mind-blowing about this is that it's a rejection of tragedy. It's like, ha, you thought this was a revenge tragedy. You thought it was blood and guts all over. There's a reason nobody dies early, because it's not a tragedy, it's a comedy. And in a way, I think that as cynical as it is, there's something really affirming about this story, because it refuses to be a tragedy. And I think if you do it right and you get the audience to buy that would just be an amazing experience in the theater.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, still doesn't grab me, and I think part of my problem is that any play that relies on disguise doesn't work for me in what is primarily, the way we've done it with First Look, an audio medium. Because you're just not quite sure who knows who genuinely is. On that basis, the plot doesn't seem to work for me. There's some lovely lines in it. There's, as we've mentioned, a few little bits where the blue pencil would possibly need to come out, but that's for modern aesthetic reasons rather than anything else. But overall, I don't think it's one I'll be queuing for tickets for.
Briony, final thoughts?
I've really, really enjoyed this one. There's something about the way the characters are written that really gives it life for me. The fact that the dishonesty and misinformation is just everybody is lying, and you don't really know what's happening because you don't know how much of what you're hearing is true. And that just adds to it for me, because it's so pervasive throughout until you start getting the reveals from well past the halfway point in the play. But I'm fine with that, because there's just something about it, the language and the characters that carries it for me and gives it real life.
Lalitte, final thoughts, please.
Yeah, my overall impression was that I almost felt I was in a restoration comedy. more than a Jacobean city comedy. I mean, it's kind of got that feel about it, with the Bilioso as a kind of fop, and everyone disguised in stratagems, and everyone kind of jumping in and out of bed with each other, and it really reminded me a lot of sort of Afro-Ben and Congreve and Man of Mode. That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah. So, and I like the language a lot, and I think it's probably worth doing because of partly Maquerelle's just a great character, so I think she just needs to get her turn. But also, if you can get the dynamic between Mendoza and Malevole right, then you could get that could motor the whole play. That you've got, if you have that enough of a kind of resentment thing going on, and enough of panic on Mendoza's side, then I think that would carry it.
Francis, you missed the middle session, but you've rejoined us after catching the opening. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting play. It's full of surprises. You never know what's going to happen next. And it's got some very well-drawn characters. And I would be really intrigued to see a production of it. I'm kind of jealous of those of you who have seen productions of it, and I'd be interested to hear more about those productions.
Any moment. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, unlike Lalitte, I think Maquerelle's a great character. She's very pragmatic, which I like.
Rachael, final thoughts?
Besides the problematic bits, I really like this one. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here, and I agree with what a lot of other people are saying, that I would like to see this. I would like to see more of this. I would like to see a production of this. And Maquerelle, I think, is a really fun character. She reminds me of a Celestina from Callisto and Melibea, just that body type character.
Yes, that compilation show is really, really starting to build. Eric, final thoughts?
I was thinking that technically Mendoza and Malevole, or Altafronte, are kind of two sides of the same coin. They're basically the same person, but at different stages of their career. Yeah, like one is the sort of up and coming Michael Jackson, and the other one is sort of the one that's gonna be kicked out and sort of about to die, or something. I don't know. Just sort of. It's just interesting as a play. I'd like to see it staged, just because, like, wow, it's fun and problematic, of course.
Well, it is doing many things. Dan, you've only come in for the end, so I don't know how bewildered you are. Any final thoughts?
So, in terms of the story, seems fine to me. I'm going to go off of its reputation and say, yes, I would like to see this staged because it has a very strong reputation amongst the people in the room generally. And as far as from what I've heard from other people, this is one of Marston's best. This is one of those playwrights that is generally more familiar to people who love early modern theater and really follow it, and not just follow what's I guess popular to the general public. So it's one of those plays that could be one that is, I guess, an unearthed treasure. I'm interested, of course, from the research standpoint. This is one of those plays that is very highly studied for many reasons, because of the fact that while A was printed 3 times in 1 year, the third one having additions, so that's reason B. A collaboration between John Marston and John Webster. Also, the fact that Marston in the prologue talks about the fact that he really wanted to overlook the experience of this being printed and was not able to. Yet it has all the traces of someone who is being very highly involved in the printing of it, in terms of it's a very technical play. all of those asides, all of those who's talking to whom things, all of these stage directions are original, and which is really highly unusual for a play script. A lot of things that don't appear in our script but do appear in the printings, in all three printings, is the fact that lots of it is in italics. So despite the fact, sorry, there's a siren going on outside.
They're coming for you.
Yeah, despite the fact that there may be few soliloquies insofar as there's very long speeches, there are lots and lots of asides to the audience that are indicated in italics. The fact that the punctuation from quarto to quarto is pretty similar in and of itself suggests to me as well that these printers, and there's two different printers involved here, Valentine Sims, who's very highly skilled play printer, as well as George Eld, two of them, made sure to include stage directions in the margins, marked out by asterisks, marked out by long dashes and parentheses and whatnot, to indicate when specific action should happen. This is a highly readerly text, in other words, in terms of, well, they wanted the reader to understand how the authors wanted you to see it, at least wanted you to read it. So for that reason in and of itself, I want to see this being played out in as much as a play production in terms of in a piece of entertainment, as much as one who wants to study how a playwright or playwrights wanted you to follow a production.
Right. Well, as we go to the final thoughts, sort of second round for those of us who've been lucky to have seen productions of this play. I saw this production of this by the RSC around 2003. Anthony Sher was playing the Deposed Duke, and it was sort of set in off the top of my head, it's sort of a Banana Republic kind of setting, which makes that sort of relationship with a more powerful other country has a nice logic to it. There was a lot of business with wigs. He had a wig and glasses, as I recall, that he always took off when he was in disguise or when he was not in disguise, and there was a lot of swapping between that. I remember that reasonably well. But more recently, there was the Edward Boys staged it, and that production is available on DVD via their website. So if you'd like to see a production, it was a very good production. I enjoyed it very much. The thing that I remember interestingly was in their program they put in a synopsis, basically explaining what's going on, and someone was sitting next to me and was saying, well, should we be telling people about who Malevole is before the play starts? And I was sort of going, well, and I was sort of going either or. And it's an interesting question now, actually, that I might pose to the room, is that, not knowing what's going on, how important is it to that initial sort of melee at the beginning? There's no definitive answer because, of course, to a degree, we need to this reading is not very necessarily the best way of answering that. I'm going to let that sink for a second because I'm going to go to Lois, who I've been saying not to say anything for all week. So if you have anything you wish to say, you are free to unburden yourself on how this performs. And just any thoughts about the play and the text?
Yeah, well, the people that came to see this, if they were thinking of Marston's earlier plays, they would have thought undoubtedly that it was going to end the way Antonio's Revenge ends, which is really horrible. I think you've read that one, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, they all get round the conspirator and they trample on him and they cut his tongue out. And this is the sort of thing I think everybody thought we were going to get. So he really is pulling a big surprise, I think, on people that know his previous work. I've seen it 4 times. Yeah.
Yay.
And I saw the 2 productions that Rob saw. And I also saw one that doesn't really deserve mentioning, which was this young, almost children's company that they tried at the Globe for a while, which didn't work very well. And nobody thought that was a good production. But I also saw what I think was the first revival of it, which I think was 1970 by Jonathan Miller at the Nottingham Playhouse. And it was absolutely brilliant. It was actually better than any of the others. he just got the tone of it perfectly. It was extremely funny. He had a guy named Derek Godfrey that probably no one's heard of anymore, but who was a very good actor, and particularly in slightly grotesque roles as Malevole. And I remember particularly, I mean, all these crosstalk scenes went extremely well. They really were choreographed, and, you know, people fired lines at each other and kept going into sort of like comic routines. And when he says, you know, sword, pistol, crossbow, I'll go kill Pietro, he did indeed come on stage with all of that. Plus, I think, a large ball, a sort of ball and chain thing. And he dropped the ball, which bounced. And then he came on and settled down calmly to look at Pietro, who was sleepy. And then he finally said, Duke, wake up, I've come to murder you, you know, with his crossbow pointed at him. And I mean, there were just so many absolutely hilarious moments in the thing. And that whole thing about, you know, Mendoza thinking he's being so clever, telling one person to murder another person and then telling the other person to murder the first person. I did all of that. I just remember it being an extremely funny play, but also I think Miller did also, not only was he very good at seeing what was funny about it, but he was also very good at bringing out the sort of serious moments when they came, so that they were actually extremely effective. I mean, you probably know that Marston, only a couple of years after this, went into the church and spent the rest of his life as a minister. So I don't think he's being as cynical as everybody would like to think he was. But as I recall, the Edwards Boys production did try to make the ending cynical. I mean, they sort of suggested that Malevole, once he got on his throne, was going to be just as bad as everybody else had been, which I think is rather a pity. I mean, it's the kind of ending everybody likes nowadays. You know, we don't like morality. We don't believe anybody's any good. Then we wonder why everybody is so awful. That's what we think.
Yes, they gave it. They did give that definite a lot of weight, and yeah, they had a very distinctive Maquerelle who had a very French accent.
Yeah, I couldn't understand most of what she said, actually.
Yeah, it was very fast, very fast performance. But there are lots of other things for people around the room from what I asked earlier, or other thoughts to just sort of throw in at this time before we close the session. We've got a few minutes left. Eric?
I'm just thinking that if you know, like this end party scene is just like a great chance to sort of throw the actors into the audience and see what happens. Like sort of, you know, it's a big party. Make it feel like a party rather than sort of just have it on stage kind of thing. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, a mask is an invitation to dance to a degree, though it's a very formalised thing. There's no reason why a modern production can't really go for it as a connection between the stage and the real world. Yes, Briony.
I enjoyed the not knowing at the start what was going on, who was disguised as who, and what was happening, because it added to the whole thing of everybody lying as well, and not knowing, even as you're getting information, not knowing how much of it is reliable. It worked for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because you know, sometimes you want to cushion the blow for an audience. There's always that sort of tuning in period for an audience with an early modern play of, you know, it takes 5 minutes to sort of go, okay, I'm with the way everyone talks, and you know, Marston is a bit unrelenting for that. You know, it's not necessarily easy, and of course it starts with this. If we assume that we're not doing the induction, you know, it starts with this awful sound, this sudden musical cue, and you know, everybody's, you know, and it seems deliberately there to unnerve. So not knowing what's going on seems in tune with what the play wants. Briony again, then Rachael.
I think there's ways that you could inform an audience of certain things without giving away other things as well. I mean, even if they just left a question mark for the audience over this Malevole character, and just sort of said, who is this person, made it clear that it is someone in disguise, and so that they're just aware and keeping an ear out. But even then, although we do stop a lot and stuff, but we picked up on the fact that it was somebody in disguise, those of us that weren't aware of the story. So
Rachael, sorry.
No, I'm kind of also for the leaving it to be revealed and not letting people know beforehand that Malevole is alto front, because the first part of this, it's all like I don't know if this fits for like a play or whatever, but if this was another, like a novel or something, they would all be unreliable narrators, and yeah, I think it works to like discombobulate an audience and keep them, unsure of where they stand with all these people, because this is a very tricky court.
Yeah. And of course, I was just mentioning, in a program note, synopsis kind of thing that, some people might have read and then they probably don't really read it properly, and then they don't necessarily connect it with anything that we're about to see on the stage anyway. It's a relatively minor thing that I've blown out of all proportion for the sake of discussion. Eric,
I was gonna say that, technically, when we were reading Supposes, we knew that was gonna be about disguise and switching around parts and all that stuff, but we had no idea what was going on at the beginning, if I remember correctly. It was kind of like, words were said, and then somehow we're in the middle with sort of, I don't know, this interesting sort of character begging for love of another character and sort of disguises another character, and it's like, what the why, which just kind of adds to the trying to work out what's going on a bit.
Well, Supposes as well reveled in the fact that you didn't know what was going on. Because the opening prologue was basically, so this is a thing with supposing that supposes to suppose. We'll see some supposing, supposedly. That's basically, and it just does that for about 2 minutes. So, explicating anything is clearly not what that plays down to do. And the prologue to this is so short. It's so unhelpful. Whereas the induction is doing all sorts of other games about change of venues and audience behaviours between different venues as well, going well we always sat on the stage at the Blackfriars, and whereas at the Globe you can't. Lynn.
Surprisingly, though, I think the prologue, the induction to this, not the prologue, is actually, I think it's actually really helpful. Because I think for this play to function, it has to function as a play. We have to be really aware that it's theater, and that we're buying into that. It has to get our consent. And I think one of the reasons it doesn't work for Alan is that he just it never persuaded him to give his consent. He didn't feel like the invitation to join the game was persuasive. So actually, even though it's an add-on later, I think the induction helps to signal what this play is and how it works.
Yeah, there's a really good, because Lois, I don't recall in either of the productions I saw that they did anything with the induction. Did they do for any of the others?
No, I've never seen it done with the induction.
Because I'm sort of wondering whether actually there's some mileage with a modified induction to maybe reflect some modern in-jokes, that actually that Lynn's point there's really good, actually, that there's an opportunity in the option there. But very briefly, Eric, otherwise we need to close the session.
Yeah, I was just going to say that kind of intro though works, when there was the Fulgence and Lucrece one, where not for us, but a different company, Dolphins Back, I think, where they kind of just had this academic talking about the importance of the work and why he likes it, and then suddenly A jumps in, interrupting the action, which actually worked really well. It was like, what are you doing? This person is talking. Obviously, we knew because we could see the sort of tabs. But it was just really well done, sort of almost seamless.
Yeah, and just a note there, where it's especially always good to bring up Fulgence and Lucrece, just to point out that whenever you notice anything in the early 17th century doing meta theatre games, it's been done already. Just throw that in. Sadly, we have completely run out of time. That it's such a shame because there's still so much more to talk about, I'm sure. All that remains to thank all the wonderful readers. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Who let her in?